What's going on, guys? Your boy Amazing here, back with another video. And in today's video, guys, we are here with another Duet Net Abyss video. I'm on Warframe here, guys, but this is about Duet Net Abyss because what I wanted to talk about in today's video is going over some of the mods that are in Warframe, or the demon wedges that would actually translate over into Duet Net Abyss. That would be really cool. Again, the system that Duet Net Abyss has, or the demon wedge system, is completely based off of the Warframe modding system. And so I want to go over a few mods that I think could actually translate really well into Duet Net Abyss to either improve the strength of some weapons, improve the strength of some characters, or just in general help with quality of life. So if you guys do enjoy videos like this, definitely make sure to hit that like button and subscribe as we are on the road to that 6,000 subscribers on the channel. I definitely do appreciate you guys with the release of Duet Net Abyss. Now we're kind of in a more dry period, guys, so the videos, I'm going to be trickling them out regardless. But yeah, let's hop in and let's kind of talk about some of the mods I think will actually translate really well into Duet Net Abyss. So starting off with character mods, or like Warframe mods, guys, I think the first one that I have to mention here is going to be Equilibrium. So for you guys that don't know what Equilibrium does, it's going to be, and I'll read it in the terms of Duet Net Abyss, okay? Health pickups give 110% sanity. Sanity pickups give 110% health. So the way that this would work pretty much, guys, is that you pick up a health drop, right? I forget what it's called, like the little, like, I don't even remember exactly what it's called, the little like item. But pretty much every time you're doing a stage in Duet Net Abyss, you kill enemies and they drop either health or sanity pickups. And whenever you pick up that sanity pickup, it would only give you sanity. If you pick up a health one, it only gives you health. In Warframe, they have a mod here called Equilibrium, where if you pick up health, you're not only getting energy or a sanity, you're getting your health too. So you kind of get both in a sense, which is, I think, is really good. This would actually allow for builds where if you're running something like Lin, right? If you're running Lin and you really do need energy, and let's say you kill all the enemies, they don't even drop really too many energy drops, but they start dropping a bunch of health pickups that will then convert into energy. That could be really, really nice. And that is one of those things that I think could really just kind of improve quality of life for some builds in Duet Net Abyss. Even look at, like, you know, more AFK kind of oriented builds, like with like Fina, where you drop her ultimate and you're doing like exploration. That could be really good too, and that means you wouldn't have to run as much efficiency, and you can run a lot lower efficiency and get maybe more damage or more other, you know, stats that you could be doing really well with as well, right? So I do think that, like, you know, a mod like Equilibrium would definitely help a lot of builds in Duet Net Abyss, and would definitely just improve the quality of life of some of them, right? Just in general, because now you're picking up health pickups that give you sanity, so you have even more energy to be able to spam your skills or whatever the case. So I do think that this is a very important mod that I think should be in Duet Net Abyss. Alright, guys, now the other mods that I actually wanted to talk about as well are going to be the plus and minus mods in Warframe. Now we have a few of them in Duet Net Abyss, and I think if they introduce more of them, they also could be really good too. But just to give you guys a few examples here, we have Narrow-Minded here, which gives you 99% ability duration minus 66 ability range. So pretty much it's just a plus minus mod. We have a few of them in Duet Net Abyss already. I think it's like the Pan's Omen or whatever, right? We have a few of those, but like something like this, imagine really high duration, low range. There's some builds that want really high duration, low range. Imagine really high ability range, lower strength. I think we actually have this one in Duet Net Abyss. Actually, this one we actually do have. And then think of one like this, where we have really high ability strength but minus efficiency, so it costs more to use the ability, but you actually have way more damage on the actual build itself. I think these types of mods, guys, are definitely very good, because it depends on the type of character you're using it on, right? Maybe some characters don't really need efficiency, so running something like a blind rage equivalent could actually be really good, right? You're getting really high strength, lowering your efficiency. But then you have something like, you know, a character where you only really want duration and you don't really care about range, especially if it's something where it's like, you know, as an example, if we talk about like Truffle and Filber, right? They don't really care about ability range, so you get as much duration. I think, now that I'm thinking about it, we actually might have Narrow-Minded already. I'm trying to see like what's the other mod that does a plus minus, but I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't know if I can remember here, man, but there are a bunch of other mods. Fleeting Expertise, increase efficiency minus ability duration. That's another good one too. Some, you know, some Warframes or some characters will not need duration in their builds, but they would like to have really high efficiency, so it's, you know, it's easier to cast their abilities. that could be really good too. You know what I mean? Or for like in this circumstance, fleeting expertise would actually be very good on a Lin, because then you would have really good efficiency and your duration would only be on the buff effect for her duration. You could still just pretty much have infinite ultimate, right? And so this is just another example of a plus minus mod that I think could be really good. All right, guys, now the next mod that I do want to mention as well is going to be primed sure-footed. Now we actually do have this already in Duet and Abyss, but the way that we have it in Duet and Abyss is pretty stupid, because it gives you the effect of prime sure-footed, but you actually deal a lot less damage dealt. I feel like that is just kind of like a counterintuitive thing. The reason why you're running something like prime sure-footed or the equivalent in Duet and Abyss is so that you don't have to really worry about getting knocked down. For a character like Hellfire, where you pretty much always want the enemies to be damaging you, you do not want to get knocked down. So having that, you know, that Demon Wedge or that mod equivalent, and yes, again, I know we have it in Duet and Abyss, but the fact that it lowers your damage style, I think, is not really a fair trade-off for what we are getting. So I do think, again, like prime sure-footed, really good for like AFK kind of farming, where if enemies are hitting you, you don't really care about that. It's completely fine. You won't get knocked down. I think that's a really good mod. And then another like honorable mention one as well, guys, would be like natural talent. So improving the casting speed on Warframe abilities if applicable, and plus 50% casting speed. So for things like, you know, abilities that take a while to actually cast in Duet and Abyss, this would be 50% faster. I think that's really crazy. You know what I mean? Like there are definitely some abilities where when you go into it, like I think it just as an example, if you go to like Lin ult, like when you proc Lin ult or even Sabil ult, it does a little animation. It would pretty much do that animation 50% faster. You know what I mean? At the very beginning when you proc the ultimate or when you proc an ability. So I think, you know, natural talent for like, you know, maybe AFK farming strategies or for more like, you know, kind of chill farming, I think that is a really good mod that I think could definitely help in that sense, right? Like that I think is a very good one. All right, guys, now moving away from character demon wedges or character weapons, let's go over weapon demon wedges and actually talking about that now, right? So here's my Torrid. As you guys know, Torrid is one of the best weapons in Warframe just in general. Now, one mod that I think they could definitely introduce is a series of mods called the Galvanize mods. Now, these in Warframe, the way that these work is they give you a set amount of multi-shot, which is technically less than like a base you know, chamber. Here, let me find the chamber mod here. All right, guys, so here's the mod right here, split chamber. We already have a version of split chamber in Duet and Abyss. It's the mod that gives us the just straight up multi-shot on rifles, but imagine we had a mod like galvanized chamber where it gives you a little bit less base multi-shot, but on kill plus 30% multi-shot for 20 seconds, and it stacks up to 5 times. That I think could be actually insane. And it's not even just galvanized chamber as an example. You have things like galvanized aptitude. So think of this as 80% trigger probability on kill plus 40% direct damage per trigger effect on the, or like bonus effect on the target, stacking up to 2 times. So direct damage in Warframe, I don't know exactly how it's calculated, but it's pretty much just like true damage in a sense. Like it bypasses like a bunch of other stuff, right? It just does direct damage in a sense, right? So galvanized aptitude is how weapons in the end game of Warframe or in like later like level cap type stages are able to still deal raw damage to that. And I think even on the secondaries here, they have an even stronger galvanized aptitude. Yeah, this one stacks up to 3 times. You get 3 times the direct damage as well, right? So that one's pretty crazy. So I do think like the series of galvanized mods could be very strong, especially for weapons in the game right now in Duet and Abyss, because right now the problem that weapons have is that they just aren't strong enough. They don't feel strong enough, right? So if we were to have a series of galvanized mods, or you know, the equivalent of this type of mod to actually improve our damage, I think that could be really good. All right, guys, now another mod that I did want to mention, now this pretty much covers like all weapons and also characters too, but I want to talk about augment mods. I never even mentioned augment mods yet, but pretty much the way augment mods work is that they give you a certain effect for a certain character or a certain weapon. Like pretty much it's like tailor-made for that character. And I know we have some in Duet and Abyss that are like, okay, you know, you get like more skill damage for dealing skill damage with like, you know, a character like Psyche. I think it's the Whispering Zephyr. Like that's obviously very good for her, but it doesn't say it's like only usable on Psyche. So you have this one right here for my Wisp, Fuse Reservoir. The reservoirs add a 4th one that costs a little bit more, but now it gives you the all 3 effects of the buff. So imagine, let's say maybe Fina had one like that, where instead of having to cycle through each of the types types of the ultimate, it actually casts all 4 of the ultimates, but it costs a little bit more energy, right? Imagine she had an augment mod like that. Or another example, which is pretty like really good to explain to you guys, is Mesa here. Imagine we had a augment mod like Lynn's Waltz, where in the ultimate you could actually move at 50% of the speed when using the ultimate, pretty much when you have the guns. So with Mesa here, whenever I use the ultimate, I'm actually still able to move, whereas I'm stuck in one position in Duet and Abyss with Lynn, right? I have to use the skill to actually move. With this, you could actually move with this mod specifically to make the quality of life of the build a little bit better. So again, guys, like these are just examples of like some augment mods. And then another one here for like my Ocucore right here is Sentient Surge. Each target eliminated refills 20% of the Ocucore's magazine, and status chance and critical chance are increased by 60% for every tendril active. So this one's insane with how the Ocucore actually works, where if I am getting a bunch of kills, I'm getting a bunch of status chance, I'm getting a bunch of critical chance, I'm refilling my magazine, and I'm just farming a bunch of enemies. So again, guys, I think augment mods are a really big one actually that I think Duet and Abyss should introduce, because it would actually allow for, you know, builds on characters to feel a lot more quality of life in a sense. Like they'll feel a lot easier to run, and they also will just feel a lot stronger in general too. Now moving over to the melee mods here, guys, I don't really know how many other melee mods we really need in Duet and Abyss. I feel like we have a fairly good amount of them, but I think the one like that I think could be really good would be things like Berserker Fury, and then also Weeping Wounds, right? So 40% status chance per combo multiplier. Weeping Wounds is really crazy for that. And then things like Blood Rush. I think we actually have kind of equivalents of this in Duet and Abyss right now, but they're not as powerful. And maybe the one that we really need is Condition Overload, where plus 80% melee damage per status type affecting the target, right? So imagine you're running Fina and you have all 4 of the elements on the enemy, and then you melee. Condition Overload, or the equivalent of that in Duet and Abyss, would allow you to deal so much more melee damage against enemies that have all the effects of the types, that you would be dealing way more damage. So again, I think like these types of mods, I think we have Weeping Wounds and Blood Rush in Duet and Abyss, like the equivalents of that, but we don't have a Condition Overload if I'm not mistaken. So if we get something like this, where we're just dealing increased melee damage for every status effect or every trigger probability or bonus effect, I guess you'd call it, on the target, we're dealing way more damage, right? And that's why melees in Warframe felt so strong, because this is pretty much their equivalent of a galvanized mod, right? Like this Condition Overload here. That's why weapons actually did get the galvanized mods to pretty much kind of act as that, where you get the direct damage in a sense too, right? So yeah, I think that's like the main mods that I would say for like melee and then range that I think could come for weapons. But you guys let me know in the comment section below. Do you guys have any suggestions for some mods from Warframe, if you guys are Warframe players, that you think could actually translate really well into Duet and Abyss? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But these are just a few of them that I think are going to be really good if they are ever introduced into the game, or, you know, are releasing in 1.1. Maybe they are, you know, I don't know. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. But that's going to be it, and I'm gonna see you guys on the next one, man. Peace out. Have a good rest of your day, guys. See you later, man.